What's up, guys? Spin Firearms here, and don't you just hate when people talk crap or just hate on your firearm? Don't you hate watching a review and that reviewer doesn't like it? Don't you hate when you see someone with your firearm and it jams? Just remember, guys, that handgun, the one they're shooting, is not yours. Anyways, before we get started, hit the like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe. Today, we're going to be talking about the most hated, but also the most loved handgun on the internet. And I've had this handgun for a while, and I'm going to tell you my thoughts on it. But on top of that, I've been seeing all this stuff for a while. I've been doing YouTube a little over 2 years, and I see it everywhere. So let's get into it. It is not this Beretta Pico, but people keep saying, oh, your Beretta Pico doesn't shoot because you always throw it. And my answer is no. My Beretta gets thrown because it doesn't shoot. And I could send this away to Beretta. They go, why don't you get it fixed? Well, I've tried every fix for every problem it's had, and it just doesn't run. But they say, why don't you send it in? And because then I wouldn't have a Beretta Pico to throw. Anyways, today we're talking about the Taurus G3C, right? Or it's basically the same thing as the Taurus G2C. There's a couple minor changes throughout them, but they're basically interchangeable. And this history runs very deep for the hatred of Taurus, right? Taurus is a handgun company that mainly manufactured their handguns in Brazil. As of recent, in the last couple of years, with the G series and the popularity shooting through the roof, and you go on budsgunshop.com and you see the Taurus G3C or Taurus G2C there every time, they had to open up an American plant. And since then, and since they partnered up with Metgar to make their mags, Taurus honestly has been on a roll, right? Then everything came to a crashing halt when the Taurus GX4 had drop safe problems, right? So everyone was on them, oh, Taurus is back to Taurus again. Taurus firearms will go off by themselves. Taurus is like SIG. But at the same time, you heard nothing about the Taurus G3C but positive things, right? Regardless if the review says it's the best gun for the money, which is sort of a backhanded compliment, but at the same time, they're also calling it the best out of many handguns. When you see way more problems coming from PSA than you do from Taurus, when you go to the local gun store and say, hey, what are the most returned handguns, and it's not as much Taurus as it used to be, you can see that Taurus is actually stepping up their game. Anyways, the Taurus G3C, what is it? It is a 12+1 setup of 9mm in this setup. They also make a 40 of the G2C if you guys are interested. I've never seen a 40 G3C, but the G2C I believe still exists. And it's actually interesting. They make a single stack version of the Taurus G2. I believe it's called the Taurus G2S, which is actually funny. It came out before the G3C, but still actually looks the same. Similar in size, a little bit smaller, thinner, that whole sort of thing. But basically it looks like this in a single stack, so pretty interesting. Anyways, it comes with 3 Metgar mags, keyword Metgar. They make awesome mags, and that's who you go to when you need reliability. So shout out to them. Anyways, you get 3 mags with it. You also get a rail. A lot of subcompacts in this category lacked rails for a long time. Obviously, it's becoming more and more popular, and the leader in the subcompact division, being the Glock 26 and 27, they don't come with rails even in the Gen 3. So at least Taurus is noticing little things that people want, right? But you got to keep in mind, I got 2 G3Cs, and I paid $240 for each of them. I have thousands of rounds through my other G3C, and this is actually my least shot G3C, and I have no issues. They've ran hollow points, HSTs, Civil Liberty Defense, and on top of that, gold dots. I'm not sure if I ran anything else through this one. The other one has run Underwood, not a single malfunction. No problems. And, you know, with these handguns being so cheap, you have to cut corners. So that is always my question with a handgun like this. If you're selling it for $240, you have to make a little bit of profit, right? Where is that profit coming from? So one, obviously, is that finish. The finish is terrible. I never holster this handgun, and it looks like it's holstered all the time. It looks like I carry it every day and practice drawing. So the finish. But does the finish really matter? Not really. It does for looks, but every Taurus I've ever seen that's actually carried looks like a disaster, unless it's Cerakoted, which isn't a big problem. You get something like this really worn down, whether it looks cool, I'm fine with that. It looks battle torn and, you know, battle worn or whatever the case may be. It actually adds character, shows that you carry. But at the same time, I like my handguns looking nice, so you can always send it away for a Cerakote. This one did have a manual safety on it. Not a big deal. It's actually stiff going up and easy to disengage, so I actually like that. Came with memory pads. Honestly, I feel like a little bit before memory pads were a big thing. Even though there's no texturing, it's still nice to have on a handgun, right? They did it right for sure in overall ergonomics. Now, it is a cheaper handgun, so they didn't spend all the time in the world engineering the perfect fitting handgun, but it feels good enough in the hand to where I think the average person would be able to enjoy this handgun. On top of that, the texturing is really nice. It's not too much, it's just right. They did a really nice job with that texturing and also adding a base plate to the mag that flares out a bit, locking all 3 fingers in there. Now, you can really feel that they're being locked in, which is really nice for recoil control and handling. They all use this stainless steel barrel, which shows wear just like the finish or on the slide, but once again, not a big deal. Takes down like a Glock, and another benefit of getting the Taurus G3C over the G2C is it takes Glock sights. Now, right away, it's interesting. A $240 handgun comes with better sights than a Glock. You have a metal rear that is textured but blacked out, which I don't mind at all. It's a really nice sight picture. And then you have a white front dot. Like I said, though, this handgun now has the ability to get any sight picture you could ever want in the whole entire world, simply because it's compatible with Glock. Also, if you're familiar with Glocks, it takes down just like a Glock. I don't know if I said that, but that makes it about as easy as possible to field strip and take down your handgun, because that's one of the easiest ways to take a handgun down, or at least one of the most well-known. Maybe not the easiest, but one of the most well-known, and I don't mind it. Now, what's interesting about this handgun is, I'll show clear, always cleared, it actually racks really nice, and I think that's part of the reason it handles recoil well. The number one complaint I've had from people that I shoot with is some people say that when they're pulling that trigger and they shoot, the recoil pinches their finger in here. So they have a little bit of, what I don't know what they call pain, or a little finger pinch or trigger pinch, whatever you want to call it, when they shoot. That's only been 2 people. Everyone else seems to like it, so it might just be their hands, their fingers, whatever the case may be. But here's what's interesting about this handgun. It has restrike capability, right? So if you're shooting and you get a light primer strike, you can let that long double action trigger pull go and attempt that same round again. Now, will that help you? It definitely could. In a self-defense encounter, you're shooting and you get a light primer strike, at least you have the attempt. You may, it's sort of hard to say, because you might just want to tap and rack at that point, but are you training with that restrike capability? Do you know to keep pulling? It's hard to say, because not a lot of handguns have that capability. So depending how you've been training your whole life, your first thought might be eject that round. But for some people, that's awesome, because when you're dry firing, you can sit here all day and you don't have to rack that slide. You literally can just dry fire practice with that trigger all day long. Now let's take a look at that trigger pull, right? First trigger pull. Very light. Pretty defined wall, but you can still pull through it. See that? And if you really wanted to, you can go right through. But a very nice wall. And then it's short and crisp and clean. So nothing bad to say about that. Especially I'm a Glock fanboy, so how can I complain about this trigger? Reset's actually pretty dang short for what it is. It's actually pretty nice. So Taurus did a good job with the trigger on this overall. Now, in terms of restrike capability, this is what your trigger pull is going to look like. So obviously you're starting to get some resistance right here. Spongy, 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 break. But obviously it's a double action pull at that point, and it is what it is. Hopefully you never have to use that. Hopefully your Taurus GX4 or G3C is reliable. Now, in terms of overall, right, I see more positive about the G3C than anything. The number one thing I see, though, is people saying, oh, you're poor, you have a Taurus. Who cares? Like that's the problem with the 2A community. Everyone wants to crap on each other. Everyone wants to make people feel lesser. It's like, dude, just you're creating division in your own, side that you believe in. It just doesn't make sense. So anyone with a handgun, anyone who defends himself, anyone who protects himself, I don't care what you use. If you carry, I'm right there with you, brother. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.